Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, I've ruined the tradition. I've already made a video, but chapter 891 of One Piece is out. So if you haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so, because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. Oh man, guys, the truth has just been revealed. For those out there, I'm not sure if there was anybody, but if there was somebody out there who doubted whether Luffy would eventually be able to obtain the powers Katakuri has the ability to see in the future, this chapter definitively proved them wrong and gave us a little insight as to where Luffy will be in the future of the story. Guys, even now, even though it may not be perfect, Luffy has the ability to see the future. There's actually a couple things that I want to talk about in regards to this. Actually, I already got a Twitter message about this. Joyboy, didn't you make a theory that Luffy wasn't going to be able to get Future Sight HAKI, so your theory was wrong? Guys, the question was never if Luffy would get this ability eventually. The question has always been, will Luffy use this ability to defeat Katakuri? From very near the beginning of this fight, we suspected that this fight would be a stepping stone for Luffy. It would allow Luffy to progress beyond the level of a Yonko commander and be able to fight at least on par, at least hold his ground versus an actual Yonko. And so from this perspective, it would make sense for Oda to lay down the things or begin to develop the things which will allow Luffy to compete with a Yonko. Something like Future Sight HAKI, absolutely necessary in my opinion. Luffy needs to take that next step. And I do think that it was prudent for Oda to show Luffy having at least the capacity to use this ability. It is not impossible. In fact, as I reread the scene in Marineford between Luffy and Mihawk, when Luffy saw his arms getting cut off by Mihawk and changed course, which is very similar to seeing in the future, Mihawk specifically commented that Luffy was unusually calm. I consider that a clue that Luffy had the capacity, and now Oda has gone all in Whole Cake Island. Yes, Luffy can use this in the future. But still, Katakuri is a pro. Katakuri has been honing his observation HAKI skills for, dozens of years, whereas Luffy's just starting to tap into his potential. For Luffy to rise and become a master within the span of a couple minutes, I think is kind of lazy writing, personally. So I am still doubtful that Luffy is actually going to defeat Katakuri because of this power-up. I really think that Oda has other things in store for the Luffy and Katakuri fight, aside from Luffy just steadily improving this until he's able to defeat Katakuri. It would be very surprising to me if Oda just went that linear. And I think another important thing to bring up is that Luffy himself stated that Katakuri can't use his HAKI forever, that his HAKI will eventually run out. Katakuri will get tired. Luffy even told us that he thought that he could beat Katakuri if he just wore him down. But he said that that wasn't right, that wasn't the way that he wanted to defeat Katakuri. He wanted to defeat Katakuri at full strength. In this chapter specifically, we see that Luffy is tired, but more importantly, we see that Katakuri is tired. Katakuri is breathing heavily. So then, Katakuri is no longer at full strength. And so as we talked about in a previous theory, I'm legitimately asking this question: is Luffy going to let Katakuri rest if he wants to defeat him at full strength? You can disagree with me, but it seems like a legit thought to have. And I think that if Luffy lets Katakuri rest, Katakuri's observation HAKI goes to full strength again. In my mind, it isn't realistic for Luffy to be able to compete with Katakuri with Future Sight observation HAKI alone, even if he's picked up on how to use it, sort of. But we should always keep in mind that power scaling in One Piece is incredibly difficult. It's really hard because of how all the various powers interact with each other. It's not straightforward. And so for all that we know, we may have severely underestimated just how much stronger Luffy is in base physical strength and speed in Gear 4th than Katakuri. So Katakuri was able to deal with Gear 4th beforehand because he was that much superior with armament and observation HAKI. It's definitely possible for Luffy, just by closing the gap, not necessarily, catching up, for Luffy to potentially be able to defeat him. But as always guys, the possibilities here are open to interpretation. But I think the last chapter did confirm that whatever is going to happen, it's going to be different from how we expected it. There's just a huge, this last chapter gave me a huge red flag. Joy Boy, whatever you were thinking before is definitely wrong, because we have a brand new element incorporated in this fight, and that is the new characters, but specifically we want to talk about Flambe. Alright, she is the Katakuri fangirl number 1. She wants to be the king of all the sisters. And just before we cut to Luffy versus Katakuri, she seems to be plotting something with all of her other siblings. Now I'm doubtful that they can actually do anything to Luffy, but the fact that Oda decided to incorporate them into the story right now and have them act in the story in some way implies some amount of importance. Just now this fight changed from Luffy's solo fight versus Katakuri in the mirror world to Luffy's solo fight with Katakuri while he's getting attacked by fodder. And not just fodder, children. I'm trying my best to wrap my head around what it is that they could possibly do and what implications they can have, and honestly there's nothing that just jumps out at me as like this seems likely, or that this ties with some previous clue. The best that I can come up with off the top of my head right now is that Oda will find a way to tie in the fact that Katakuri is not perfect and his family does not know that with whatever ends up happening. But they will certainly do something, and it will change the dynamic of the fight in my opinion. There was a comment in my video about Luffy's New World training arc recently that really caught my attention, which is that, there's this thought that video creates. So again, you probably need to watch that in order to not view me as a lunatic, but right there maybe Luffy and Katakuri might end up being friends by the end of all of this, or at least have some kind of mutual respect. The idea somebody threw out there is that Luffy will defend Katakuri's honor by not revealing his secrets. If all of his siblings are there watching him, waiting for him not to fail, because obviously he's perfect. And Katakuri is getting tired. He's running out of observation haki. He hasn't had his proper merienda. Really could be setting up Luffy helping Katakuri maintain his image and his mystique. But as I said guys, that's the best that I got for now. Moving on to the next topic, the cake is now completed. We learn at the beginning of this chapter that is 9:30. Again, I think that it's really interesting that Oda points out the time of 1 AM meeting in Cocoa Island being important, when at this point in time it really doesn't seem important. Sanji will end up meeting the rest of these Straw Hats and Big Mom closer to right now. So I do think that this time will play a role, but I no longer have any idea as to how or why. But anyway, the cake is completed and the aroma itself has cooks passed out. Again, Capone or Gotti implies that this cake is so delicious it will literally kill Big Mom. I honestly cannot wait to see what exactly happens. I haven't felt like a moment has been this hype since the actual tea party, right? They've been building this cake, they've been making this cake. It's like the plan setting up, the Capone setup before the tea party, right? It just feels destined to fail. Things have been going way too according to plan up until now. Will Big Mom eat the cake? Will she not eat the cake? Will the cake get destroyed? Will Oda using his brain come up with something that nobody else has even considered? It looks like we're getting closer and closer to the answer. And when I say close, I mean that it seems implied at the end of this chapter. I don't know what else it could be, right? Big Mom smells the aroma of a cake. There's a ship on the horizon. I'm assuming, and I think most people are assuming, that this is Sanji. Of course, it's not guaranteed to be the case, right? It could be some deception on Oda's end, but it was also implied that from the Straw Hat crew that Sanji should be arriving here soon. So if Sanji is literally there, then Big Mom almost has the opportunity to consume this cake. But speaking of the Vinsmokes, when are they going to be a part of the story? It seems like we know that they're still here. They're still going to do something, but what are they going to do and when are they going to do it? The majority of you should know my thoughts. I'm really waiting for the Vinsmokes to sort of pop out from out of nowhere and then just take a cheap shot at the cake. But that really doesn't seem likely at this point in time if Sanji's already there. But I think that this also goes contrary to those who thought that the Vinsmokes would help the Straw Hats, right? They thought that the Vinsmokes would already be there to potentially help the Straw Hats before Sanji arrived with the cake. The cake saves everyone. So what role will the Vinsmokes play? We're getting into the part of the arc where all the theories start crumbling and we gotta build up some new ones. Regardless of whether or not you believe that the Vinsmokes or Sanji still needs to fight his brothers, or that his brothers will come to his rescue, you have to conceive of a scenario in which they're allowed to do whatever it is that you think that they will do. As of now, I don't see when the Vinsmokes arrive. Moving on to the next topic, was actually at the very beginning of this chapter, we got to see a conversation between Stussy, Morgans, Baron Samago, and Montandor. It's really easy to miss Montandor, but he is there as well. Stussy literally spilled the beans on the Tamate Bako. We specifically discussed this in the past, right? This information, which Oda clearly showed us that Morgans and Stussy had, would be used in some way. Something need to happen in regards to this, and it seems as though the first step, or maybe the last step that Oda takes with it, is to inform the Big Mom Pirates of the truth. And this is another one of those things that's really curious of an introduction at this point in time. The Big Mom Pirates do not need any other reason or any more reasons to want these Straw Hats dead, to have them killed. Everything that they've done here is enough. So why is it important to throw this in on that? If the Straw Hats end up running away after feeding Big Mom this cake, she passes out. She wakes up, she's so angry at the Straw Hats, she wants them dead. She sends her entire crew after them. New situation. Big Mom wakes up after the Straw Hats have fled. She just ate the cake. Montandor tells her that they were also responsible for bringing down her castle. Big Mom sends her entire fleet after the Straw Hats. Wait just a second. I just said the same thing twice. Right, nothing changes. That's the point. So I think that this line is not really important in terms of, well, now the Big Mom Pirates hate the Straw Hats, right? No, they already hate the Straw Hats, so it needs to have some other importance. One of the most discussed things in the past is Big Mom deciding to take her anger out on Fishman Island. I disagree with that, but that at least makes more sense in terms of why this would be in the story. But anyway, guys, we finished this chapter with a side-by-side with Luffy and Sanji telling everyone that they will accomplish their objectives because people are counting on them. And guys, I know I wasn't the only person who found this just hilarious, because I was talking to Revujo in Twitter, and it's just so poetic that you see Luffy fighting Katakuri covered in blood. People are counting on me. Sanji on the ship covered in cream. The two situations are comparable, right? I'm just giving Sanji fans a hard time. Every now and again your buns are in the oven and you get a little cream on the face. It happens. But anyway, guys, I thought that this was a good chapter of One Piece. I kind of wish that there wasn't a break next week, but some things can't be helped, right? I try and look at the bright side. If we get a break next week, then that means we'll probably get 3 chapters in a row after that. But anyway, let me know what you thought about this chapter. Let me know if you noticed anything from this chapter that I may have missed. Just share your thoughts. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike the video if you dislike the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.